Hey, Cicely,
Hey, Mike.
did you know that Windows makes a phone?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that they have mangoes on this phone?
Mango Wango?
They have fresh mangoes. Everybody's talking about getting their mangoes on their phone. I don't know what it is, but apparently it's going to make people actually want the Windows Phone now. It's going to become popular.
Wow.
It's going to become huge. You get a phone and you get some fresh mangoes.
Is mango code word for gold plated?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's like there's a barista and you go in and she like squeezes some fresh mango juice with your phone.
Mangoes.
And you get that. I think Jasmine is calling bullshit on all of this right now. No, no, none of that's true. But what is true is that you can run XNA games on the Windows Phone 7. That XNA framework is on there. And we've talked a lot about the Sunburn gaming engine, and, you know, our focus is mostly console, some PC. We don't really cover a lot of mobile games on this show, on this podcast, but that doesn't mean that, you know, as a developer, you shouldn't be looking at mobile, because I've been told
Mobile makes the money.
mobile is hot shit right now. And you want to be there. You want to be in some mobile action. Well, so the cool thing is that the Sunburn game engine runs on Windows Phone 7 as well. So your same engine that runs your Xbox, you can use that. Yes, you can, Jasmine. No, I'm not making this up. You can run this on the Windows Phone 7. I've always said that a framework that scales is really important, and it's really important to know that a framework can scale down. I don't really get impressed by a framework that can scale up and handle big and complex. It's more important to me to see that a framework can handle the simple stuff well. Rather than handling the large stuff. Because a lot of things can handle the large stuff, but they don't handle the simple stuff so well. And it's really reassuring to know that this Sunburn game engine can scale down to the phone, and of course it can scale up to the Xbox, and then it can even scale beyond to the PC. So if you're interested on hitting all three of those platforms with pretty much one code base, XNA and Sunburn can get you there. Go check that out at synapsegaming.com. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the show. Dylan is absent. Dylan is MIA this night. He is off.
Awa.
He is off to Awa. He is off to another anime and fetish con. Up to, I think he just likes chasing chicks in cosplay. I think that's his thing.
Doesn't want to talk to him, just wants to look at him.
He just wants to creepily stare from across the room. And this is a situation for him where that's socially acceptable. You're allowed to stare.
Encouraged, even.
Yes. They want you to look.
Take my picture!
They have spent so much time on their costume, and they want you to look.
And
So
if you
that's,
don't, they get pissy.
that's where Dylan is off to this week. Yeah. That's important. We're not going to touch that. Or that. We're going to touch none of that. No. No. Already, I'm getting lip. 11 months old, and I'm getting lip.
10.
10 months old. So, Dylan is out this week. Our guest this week is Mark Harvey of
Checkmark Games.
Checkmark Games. Thank you, Mark.
No problem.
I totally spaced there for a second. And congratulations. We're like your launch party.
I know. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
So the game that came out today is Dark Delve.
Yes.
You contacted us a couple weeks in advance. You kind of took up the post I had about a few months ago about how to use the ability to pre-release and give us some time to get a review ready so that we could do a review day of release.
Yes.
And your timing sucks because we're right in the middle of like migrating the site to Azure, so it's this horrible WordPress shadow site of the former one to get that up. But Dylan did do that, so Dylan's not here tonight to talk about that, but he got his review up, and I had a good chance to talk with Dylan. And just basically, for anybody wanting to know on the game, the long story short is this is a really good RPG, and if you're into RPGs, you need to check this out. And if you're not an RPG fan, this probably isn't going to be the game that converts you.
And you know, you hit that right on the head there, because that's what I always said to myself when I was putting it together. This is the type of game I wanted to play myself. It's not going to change anybody's mind. It's a very niche title already to begin with, even amongst RPGs. You know, there's a lot of people that love RPGs that are not going to like this game. But
so,
I
is
enjoy
this your first game? Your first game on Xbox? What is this for you, development-wise?
Well, I've been kind of putting pieces in such of games throughout my entire life. I was involved a little bit in the Game Boy Advance homebrew community for a little bit. Never ever published anything. I've got, probably like everybody else out there develops games, I've got a billion unfinished projects that never go anywhere. So for me, this is the first game I've ever written that's gone all the way to a release. So that's kind of exciting.
Reading your bio, you sounded like you had a very similar track to what I've had. Where read a lot of books. I remember reading DirectX 3 books and
Nice.
and messing with projects on DirectX 3 books, but never actually completing anything or shipping anything. And you know, I'm like it said in your bio, I'm also a line of business app developer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the day job, and that's what pays the bills. So a lot of the stuff that I've done even on the side has fallen into that. You know, it's been apps or it's been websites and things like that. And, you know, with GameWorks and Funkworks, it's like, you know, let's dive in and get it to you. So what, for me, I'm just going to be honest, it was X and A. What was it for you that made you decide, like, you know, I'm going to stop piddling around and playing, and I'm actually going to ship a game?
Well, it's interesting. I saw X and A when it first came out, keeping paces with it, played around with it a little bit, and then the first games hit the marketplace. And these people I have nothing but utmost respect for, but those first games didn't showcase much. There's a lot of people trying things out for the first time. And so I kind of disregarded it, went my own way. I was working with Java for a while, and so kind of got interested in doing some Java games. And then sure enough, about a year ago, I was flipping through a game magazine and I saw a review for Breath of Death 7. And it floored me that that was an Xbox Live indie game based on my past experience. So I actually went and bought that game. And from there, I wanted to make my own.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you got cut off there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were saying, looking at Breath of Death 7,
That was
changed
the
your
inspiration.
opinion that Xbox Live indie games weren't massage apps and crap. There were a couple good
Exactly.
ones.
There were a couple of things. So that was kind of my inspiration. I kind of regret making an RPG as my first game, though, because I remember sitting there and go, oh, RPG. Well, how hard could that be? And it turns out quite
Unless
a bit
you use
difficult.
RPG Maker, it's pretty
Well,
darn
no,
hard.
like he didn't just go make an RPG. He made a 3D RPG. So
Yeah, and,
RPG wasn't enough of a hurdle for you. You had to just dive in and make your first game 3D.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, though. The 3D engine for that I actually had. It only took one night to put that initial 3D together. And so I was pretty, pleased myself. Like, oh, just throw on a combat engine, I'm good to go. But I was just getting started there. But I know the first time I went and put it on the Xbox, because I didn't actually pony up the $100 until I had pretty much a complete game, and I knew I was going to actually finish something for once. Put it up on the Xbox, getting ready, very excited, and it's going at 10 frames per second. And I was just absolutely floored. I'm like, this is the Xbox. How can it not handle me throwing a couple cubes at it? Because essentially that's all the 3D engine I have is doing. It's just putting up a bunch of 3D cubes. And it turns out I had to go into, there's a really good XNA Creators Club article about mesh instancing. And it turns out that was the key, is to push everything over to the video card to do the iteration through the modeling instead of individually pushing each model out. Once I got past that hurdle, it took a while, but.
So, your engine then, I guess, is it all cube primitives, basically voxels?
Except for the handful of things like the altar and the chests, Yeah, it's all actually they're models. I busted out Milkshape 3D, made a simple cube. I purchased the chest model from a artist on a site I came across. I liked his work, emailed him, and worked out a deal with him. And for the most part, yeah, it's the floor and ceiling. Even if you could break away the walls, you'd see those are cubes as well, just sitting on top. So it's pretty simple.
Okay, well that's pretty cool then. And this is your own 3D engine. Did you make any kind of level editors as you went on, or how did you do the map and such?
Yeah, I did have a level editor, outputted to XML, which turned out to be a problem. I had to eventually write my own input processor to transfer that over into a binary format. But yeah, I had a little simple app, but for the most part, a lot of the logic is coded directly into the C# classes. And I'm sure somebody got to look at my code, they'd have a couple headaches. There's parts that I'm quite proud of and some parts that are quite messy.
Yeah, well, you know, there's something I explained to when I go out and I talk on XNA, and that invariably somebody will raise their hand, and now, you know, being a line of business developer, they'll ask me, how do they unit test their game? Mm-hmm. How do they set up their dependency control? You know, inversion of control container, get their dependency injection, and I even start off now when I start off my talk. Somebody's going to want to ask that question, and I'm just going to say right now, I don't do that with games. It's a different animal, and don't bring your preconceived notions, because with a game, much of what you wrote, if you make a sequel to your game, you're probably going to throw out.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's not the case like you're going to have 17 versions of the same game and just iterate like you would with a business app. You're probably going to throw it out, because even if you keep some of it, when you come back to the second version, you're going to want to add completely new features and be able to do new things with the engine and expand upon it, and it's going to mean gutting a lot and rewriting a lot to integrate that stuff. So I don't feel bad if you open up your game code and, you know, there's this big mess spaghetti code section.
Yeah, I usually start out a game. You know, I'm just kind of iterating through different ideas that come to me, tweaking it. And by the time I think I have something I might want to go with, and things already gotten quite large. I mean, I've already gone past the point where I could integrate unit testing anyway.
Well, and then the stuff I tell people too, the stuff I want to unit test, I don't care to have that connected to the XNA framework. Like, that's isolated off in its own little class, and I can simulate enough of the game to test the damage calculations and things like that. I don't care to test that. You know, all I care about at the XNA framework is that we're running at 60 frames a second.
You got it right there.
And if we're, you know, I've never read a game review where somebody like dinged the game because it was not dependency injected code.
That's true. It's not like somebody's going to take your engine and do anything with it. I think a lot of time in business software, that's one of the reasons we have all the unit testing, is because you're not the only developer that's going to be working on this. You know, you've got to pass it along to other people. It's got to be maintained if it's successful.
Exactly. At some point, you're going to hand it off, and somebody's going to come in behind you.
And look at the junk and say, what the hell?
Well, what the fuck? You measure code quality by what the fucks per minute. You know, so basically when they look at their code, how many times do they say what the fuck in a minute is the quality of your code. Because they're going to say that. I mean, nobody...
And if it's really bad, it's just one long fuck.
Or yeah, then it becomes a code that if somebody touches it, they own it. Like, nobody will touch this code. And then one poor sucker actually have to go in there and like...
You looked at it, it's yours now.
Yeah, you open that file. I remember Dave opened that file. Give that to Dave. He handles that area now.
When I first started working, I took over a project from a girl that was leaving. And so I was going over to get her to tell me how much she'd gotten work on it. So I went over and she's all, actually, I'm quitting because I don't know how to do this.
Oh, nice.
And it just kind of floored me. And it's like, so I have nothing for you. There's nothing to hand off. You know, I piddled my thumbs enough, you know, and now people are catching on that I should have something done, so I'm taking off.
Mommy's going to have to go put you in your crib if you can't stop. She's gonna take down this entire show here in a second.
She looks like she's gonna press the power button.
Yeah.
Definitely don't press.
Yeah, everything. That would be the whole PC. It would go down.
Yeah, Moment's gonna.
So I want to ask you. So I know you contacted us in GameMarks. Did you contact any other review sites? And
I did. I went down the list from Xbox Indies, and I contacted everyone on the list, and only 2 of the other sites had somebody that could open CC game files, and neither of them were able to get to it in time. So you guys were the only ones that stepped up to the plate and took it. And I appreciate that.
Well, I didn't know how many other review sites could actually run a CC game file. I wish you could do something with that CC game file and just like make it an EXE.
Absolutely.
And like, here you go. Do you have a wired controller? Just plug that in, and you can run this on your PC, because your PC is more powerful than that Xbox.
Right.
And if you run on the Xbox, you're going to run on most PC hardware without too much worry there. But I haven't seen anything like that, unfortunately, to do that. I mean, I've nosed around a little bit. That CC game file is basically a cab. So you can rename it to cab and start extracting it, but it doesn't look like there's anything executable on the PC side that I found without serious hacking to go and take on. So, okay, but there are at least a couple others out there. I mean, I guess so, on the Xbox XBLA side, and generally, they get their review tokens ahead of the game being available. So you can actually use a token before the game is on the marketplace.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and that's how they get around that. And, for indies, you having something up there, like reviews come out the day of release because it's so time critical, that would be really cool,
That would be cool. And it sounds like they just said that would have to have like the framework there to handle that, but yeah, that would be exceptionally nice for it to be able to push out the codes early. I know I stayed up pretty late last night sending codes off to all the reviewers that I knew about.
So other than mess instancing, coming over to XNA, what else did you hit against? I mean, being a line of business developer, garbage collection probably was not a big thing for you.
Nope, didn't have any issues with that. The whole process went extremely smooth, and I think that's a testament to XNA in general. It's a great little framework. I mean, it's great what Microsoft has done in providing it. And it's a shame, everyone's always complaining that, you can't make money on the system or anything, but just think about the opportunity it is to, actually put your game on the Xbox. And there's something really awesome to be able to tell someone, hey, I wrote an Xbox game.
I think for older guys, that is beyond amazing, because like the classic Nintendo, I mean, that thing was like a closed black box of magic. Like if I could make a game, I could never get it on to that. Like it wasn't even until, when did we first get in CD? I guess Dreamcast, that there was even rumors of homebrew
Sega
discs.
CD technically, but
yeah,
I know with the Game Boy development I was doing, you could actually buy kits from China that would download onto a blank cartridge.
Is this like the green screen Game Boy that you're talking about?
No, this is the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
And so you could order these things. Unfortunately, they're highly illegal because you could copy the games from the internet and play them on your Game Boy Advance. But so it's kind of it was a crapshoot whether Customs was going to open the package or not.
Wow.
So,
yeah, see, I mean, now, the stuff, I guess, is still of questionable legality, but I just went on the web and paid $50 and got a cart for my Nintendo DS Lite.
It's illegal.
And I could pirate all these games.
Yarr!
But I actually end up just playing classic NES games, that I have carts for. I just like playing my classic NES games on my DS Lite. And I use it, a lot of times as indie game research. So,
dude, I was going to bring that up. I mean, how many game purchases have you justified in the name of researching your next project?
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of games that I bought Sonic the Hedgehog on Steam this past weekend. $1.24. Why the fuck? I don't know. I could download the ROM in seconds. I wouldn't even have to get on BitTorrent, right? It's probably like 5 meg, and that's it. But I was on there, and I was just kind of curious as to, like, because I never liked Sonic. I still don't like Sonic.
I liked Sonic. He's better on the Sega.
Yeah, so I downloaded the Sega one. I mean, I downloaded the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I never liked it, but it was popular, but it was more of what game mechanics are at play here that people dug about Sonic. And just to go on the record, just, you know, because people are like, how can you not like Sonic? Sonic is awesome. Sonic can't make up his fucking mind. Does he want me to zip through the levels and get a high time, or am I supposed to be exploring all these and getting all these damn rings?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel the same way.
And
both.
I feel like I've done something wrong if I pick either one of those. If I explore all this thing, then I feel bad because Sonic is just walking around like Mario, like a platformer, right?
Right.
And he's not doing his little Sonic moves. I'm like, well, that's not what the game developers did. But then if I zip through the level, I'm like, well, obviously they put these areas where you have to backtrack and all that for a reason. So maybe I should go there for that. But there's other little gaming tips. Like, I was playing Sonic and I was realizing, like, hey, as long as you have rings, you can take a hit.
You're invincible.
And then
that was an interesting idea.
And then you can, you know, grab a ring real quick, you know, if you get hit, to give you that safety barrier. So I was like, you know, even though this is an old game, and a lot of times, like, the old games are much harsher towards number of lives and deaths and starting over from the beginning, I was like, you know, this is a good mechanic. Like, this is something, like, I'm making a note over here. I'm like, hey, that's a good idea of, as long as the player has collected some of the coins, when they die, they'll lose the coins, but they'll stay where they're at. They won't die. They'll just get knocked back.
Baby Mario had a similar concept where the baby would get knocked off and you'd have a certain amount of time to recover it before you would actually be eliminated.
Yeah. So yes, I plan a lot, but a lot of times too, when I say research too, is just going through the old Nintendo games and just like what has not been made in a while, like what style of game can I, you know, bring back and make somebody go like, oh, like one of the games that we've got in development. So we've kind of fractured. There's like 4 or 5 games we've got in development. And we're trying to real focus in to get some of them finished. But one of them is Ikari Warriors.
Ah, classic.
Yeah, but there's nothing like it right now. I mean, and so we're kind of getting it up and we're kind of playing like, do you lock the direction of fire to the direction that I'm facing? Or do you modernize it and go dual stick?
I was about to say, dual stick shooter right there.
Yeah.
It seems to be the way to do it, right?
But yeah, I mean, just basically the top-down Ikari Warriors. Maybe you get in a little tank and you go through the level, and you know, it's like that has not been done in a while. I've not seen that come back. So I also have on my Nintendo DS a whole bunch of Atari 2600 games. Because those are kind of cool to go back to concept for. Like, I was really stoked when they remade Yard's Revenge.
I haven't played that yet.
Well,
is it good?
But I didn't ever buy it because what they did is they made it a rail shooter.
Okay.
And I don't know if you played the original Yard's Revenge.
It was not a rail shooter.
No, it was not a rail shooter. It was kind of just one of these weird Atari games with these weird mechanics that lived and died with that game, you know? Like, there really wasn't anything else or go anywhere, and I'm like, oh, that's grounds for doing it. And I saw they were remaking it, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I finally got my dad to buy an Xbox, and I was going to get him to buy this, but then when I saw what they did with it, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't... He's going to play this, and you know... Yard's Revenge was a game that he played for high score, competitively with, like, my uncles and such. So...
it would be nice if they would have done like a Space Invaders Extreme remake of that. Something more true to the original gameplay.
Yeah, kind of give it that bullet hell touch.
Absolutely.
So now your next game, you had some on your blog. I looked at a little video and things like that. But what are you building there? What's the idea?
Well, one of the games I've been playing a lot lately is Advance Wars. Love the Advance Wars series. And this is kind of a game idea I've had for a long, long time. In fact, everyone that knows me is very surprised that this next game wasn't my first game to come out.
No, this is the DS series, right?
The original Game Boy Advance, and also is on the DS as well.
Okay.
Turn-based strategy, kind of like, forget the original gameplay it was kind of based on. It's just a turn-based strategy. You buy your units, you go try to conquer the other guy. But I've actually written this thing all the way through a couple times in different languages. And I always ran up against one or two different problems. One of the problems was, and I ran into this with Dark Delve as well, which is trying to synchronize what the player sees and what the game state currently is behind the scenes. So, you say, okay, this guy gets hit for 5 damage. The computer knows that immediately. I've hit the thing for 5 damage, but I don't want to display that because I'm still animating the attack. So kind of mirroring those things up, it kind of took me a while, especially coming from the business side, to realize exactly how to do that. It was just having more states in my state machine. And the other problem I ran into was developing the AI for this. And that's something I always wanted to have, a strong AI, but I kind of coded myself into a corner the other times I went through the process with this game. So this time I kind of made it very modular, and I'm just kind of iterating through different AI techniques, plugging in different ideas and trying to develop something that actually works.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard me on any of our podcasts about Inca Blocks.
Mm-hmm.
AI bit me in the ass. Like, that was a thing I did not expect to spend so much time on.
Absolutely. You kind of have to think about how it's going to plug in right from the beginning. And I didn't do that, and I consequently, I'm starting from scratch again. So.
Yeah, and and it wasn't even like necessarily hard problems, but you realize like how quickly a brute force AI method breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm losing all my performance to my AI routines. Now, one thing I did not know at the time on the Xbox 360 is that you can assign threads to cores. So
I heard something about that.
Yeah, the Xbox 360 doesn't automagically run different threads on different cores like the PC does, where it just kind of decides where things can go. So I threaded my AI so that it could think on the player's turn, but I was executing everything on the same core. You actually have to call set processor affinity, and in the docs they tell you which cores are open for you to use. And then you can assign that and nail that to its own core, which I was like, wow, okay, that could have saved me a lot of headache. I didn't realize that I was running this on my render thread. But lesson learned for next time.
Yeah, and for me as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
So I've loved those kind of. I have the Advance Wars DS. I had the Dual Strike, and then there was one that came after it.
The Days of Ruin, I think it was. I didn't care for that, but it's not.
That was it. I enjoyed those. I enjoy that kind of turn-based strategy combat game. And I never liked the PC tank strategy turn-based games. Like your what was it, Panzer Generals or whatever, the hexagonal one that Warsaw.
Right, I think you're right, Panzer General.
Yeah, like I could go as far as Microsoft's Close Combat, if you remember that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get into those. But I like the little, like, almost tile-based warfare.
It's nice and simple, pretty easy to grasp, but it's still got, a pretty deep strategic level thinking, which is great.
There was a Nintendo game, an NES game, and it's called something basic. Like, it's called Conflict or something.
Conflict sounds right.
Is that the one, do you remember it having square tiles and...
I remember one. It was either Conflict or Combat or something.
real basic name, and it's that same concept. It's just, you know, this square is a bomber, this square is a tank, and you know they have movement rules for how far they can move across the different terrains. And you were just trying to take out the other guy's headquarters, and whoever knocked out the headquarters first. I think that was named Conflict.
I'm not familiar with it.
Right, because the other one I was going to mention is a PC game. It's so old you might find it on Abandonia. And it was just called straight up Conflict. And it took place in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And you played the Israel Prime Minister.
Okay.
And it wasn't, the combat wasn't the tile-based warfare combat. It was more of issuing orders and then watching the turn roll and see what happened. But the orders weren't limited to invade Libya. Okay? You could try to destable the Libyan government. What was it called?
Combat.
It was combat? You got an image up?
Not of the game itself.
Or just a box art or something?
Just a box art. There is a tank on the box.
That's an NES game?
That is an NES game.
Oh wait, are you looking at the PC game I'm talking about?
Nope. This is for the NES.
This is for the NES. Okay. Yeah, they were both called Conflict. There's not a lot of variants. You should call your game Conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the name I'm calling it is Shattered Throne. It's actually going to be a fantasy-themed version of that type of game.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Shoot, there was a castle game that I remember. A game with castles that was the same concept.
I've done fact checking for the night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do tonight. I'm just gonna throw out vague idea games I remember from shareware days, and you'll try to find them. So in Conflict, though, the cool thing was that you could not just invade Libya. You could say like, "Hey, try to destabilize the government. Try to knock the country into chaos." That was a win condition.
Sounds pretty deep for a NES game.
Well, no, this wasn't NES. This was on the PC, but this predated the NES. So I mean, this literally was like a static screen. Go to the menu, pick like, okay, what do you want to do? All right, I'm going to do something to Libya. I'm going to do a military option. And, you know, I'm going to do an airstrike or things like that. But then you could also buy hardware, military units and things like that. So your price would be based upon your actions. So, like, if your actions were pretty good overall, you could buy from the U.S. Like, the U.S. would help Israel, and you could go off. If you start doing things like the U.S. wasn't happy about, they would either raise the prices or not sell to you. So, like, in the game, then, like, you could start working on the French. And the French in the game did not give a fuck. So, you could get nuclear arms and nuke Syria, and then the French would still sell you arms. And pretty much every other country would not deal with you after that. But yeah, so that was the whole thing. The whole thing was try to destabilize all the governments around you and be the only one up and running.
Huh. I'll have to look into that.
But it was the same kind of turn-based. But yeah, it would be a layer on top of the combat round on that. So, you know, you could spread rumors about the other kingdom and demoralize their men.
Do you have your volume up?
Yeah, I'm hearing little clicks of sound too. I don't think I have any... You don't have any volume up on the live stream, do you?
I don't.
You don't have it up on the...
Nope. I closed that tab.
Did you? Just glitching, I guess.
Okay.
I'll try to not bounce in my chair, I guess.
Well,
no, because it was bouncing. It bounces my voice, and I don't think you bouncing in your chair will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like getting it's not a full-on echo. Are they talking about it in chat, or are you just hearing it?
No, they're not. I'm just hearing it.
You're just hearing it, okay. I was making sure my chat didn't get out of sync. This makes great podcast entertainment.
I know.
Yeah, it may just be on our end. It may just be something that's glitching out every now and then. I don't know. Okay, Jim says he's hearing some glitch noises too, so... yeah, I don't know. Some of this stuff works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. And
it's
sometimes
magic
it's Skype.
And fairy dust.
I'm going to be honest. Skype ran better before Microsoft bought it. And then we started having these Skype issues. Not that I think they directly did anything because they haven't had time to really update anything, but
They broke it.
I'm just saying it happened together. So that's interesting. And I saw on your blog with the game, like it was really placeholder art that you had up.
Oh yeah.
But since you've
Something
written it so many times, like how far along do you think you are in development on this?
I think I've got, the basic engine that runs the basic game with just brute force AI. There's no it doesn't actually support a human player yet. It's just basically I'm pitting the AI against itself, and different, like this AI guy is going to be a little bit smarter about which units it purchases. And so I kind of slowly iterate through the game. And it's kind of nice because we were talking about unit testing before. It's not unit testing, but I'm kind of slamming the game over and over again because I'll have it run, 100 iterations.
So you have the computer playing itself, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the Terminator? do you know the inherent danger here that you have created?
It will learn.
I never thought of it.
You're teaching it how to win at war. I mean, you should just label Whopper on your desktop PC.
Eventually it's gonna realize that nobody wins in war, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Play some tic-tac-toe and
that's the fairy tale ending. That's only if we can find the crazy old guy and get him to come in and call it Joshua, Like, without that, it's going to try.
Hello, Dave.
Okay, so you got it playing. That's kind of cool. So you got the AI playing the AI. So I guess you got most of the rules in there, and this can help, I guess, balance. So you can kind of watch the games as they go. And
so I was hoping so. And I don't know if I'll get around to doing it, but I wanted to kind of write a series of. I don't know if it's interesting to anybody, but the different steps I took in developing the AI, because I'm kind of new to this as well. Just different techniques on how it judges what the best move is at any given point in time.
Well, now I'll say that is very valuable because I'm starting to believe that indie games become popular not so much for the games themselves, although the games need to be good, but there's several indie games that are good that don't go anywhere.
Right.
But it's the story. The people are buying the indie game half because they like Minecraft, half because they love the idea of Notch doing this by himself and just being open and out there about it and like, hey, I'm just trying this crazy thing. And people identify with that story. There's actually been several games that I tracked down and bought and got my friends to buy merely because I started tracking the developer's blog for some reason and liked whatever he was writing about, especially AI. AI has been one of my pet, like I read about this and there was a game, here's another esoteric game to go look up. It was by Windward Studios and they folded, I think. Enemy Nation was the name of the game. And they just wrote about all these cool little awesome things. Like this was a real-time strategy game, an RTS. Yeah. And they were blogging all these little awesome things of how they were programming intelligence into each unit. And I just found it fascinating. It was an alright game. But I made everybody buy it and how I'll always play it. Another interesting thing, are you having resources to collect on the map? Or is it a set number of units?
It's I was going to do both types of scenarios. One where you have a certain fixed number, try to solve it with, and I actually came up with a weird mechanic that I think it works, and everyone that's play tested it, previous versions really liked it, which was I always wanted to simulate you attack a single unit and it gets weaker over time, and a lot of hardcore war games will kind of use a kind of like a stress or morale meter, and that was just seemed quite strange. And I actually ended up coming up with the idea of having combo points, where every time you attack a unit, if you attack it again immediately afterwards, it ups the combos, which reduces that unit's defense and counterattack ability. And that opened up a whole new world of gameplay ideas as far as special unit abilities, and actually came out with where I could actually have puzzle mode in the game. Which has been quite interesting, where you're set up and you have a single turn to accomplish your goal.
Okay, yeah, that is out. Yeah. Because I think Close Combat was the first game that I played where the units would break and they would run off the field. you could send soldiers out. If you sent like a soldier just to run out, you know, and like take this German bunker. This is back in the days when we could fight Nazis.
And call them Nazis.
Yeah.
We can't fight Nazis anymore?
You can't call them Nazis.
Yeah, you can't have no Nazis on Xbox
You can't
Xbox
use
that-
games.
symbols or anything like
That's
that.
what I'm joking about. Yeah. But if you send him out there like alone, like he might snap and retreat and run away, and you just lost him. Like he just left the battle. But you could also have guys snap the other way too, and then they would just charge the enemy on their own. They would just like lose it and snap. So they did have this emotional stress value they were tracking internally, based on how well the unit was covered and did it move with its other groups and all that. You know, just to kind of encourage the gamer to strategically try to take the map instead of trying to just, all right, I'm just going to sacrifice all my guys over here to break a hole and then, you know, run up the side and win. It's like that wouldn't work because your other units would freak out and then you wouldn't be able to control the battle anymore. But the idea of if I continually attack the same unit, I get stronger. Yeah, I don't think I've ever played anything like that. I don't think anything has ever done that because I guess logically it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I know it seems like a very gamist element, but at the same time, it also abstracts kind of what's going on where, you know, you're disrupting the unit. So
It kind of makes sense. It kind of
because I wanted people to it to be more of a formation-based game where you want to protect your units by, you know, creating a front where each unit is protecting the one next to it. And so the way the game works is you really have to rely on this mechanic of using combo points if you want to deal enough damage to actually make a significant impact on the enemy. So far, it's been working out quite well.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. I'm really intrigued to check this out. Having been the guy, so like when your other game came through, I played the video, Dark Delve. I played the video and I'm like, okay, he's running around. Oh, and look at that menu-based combat. All right, so JRPG, Dylan, you know, I don't know if it's a JRPG or how much it is, but I saw menu-based RPG combat. And that pretty much made me the guy you don't want reviewing the game.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, because the review would just be like how much I hate menu-based combat. And that's like, well, then why did you play this game? You know?
Yeah, it harkens back closer to Wizardry and Bard's Tale. It's kind of the pedigree I was kind of pushing there. And that's kind of what I was talking earlier. You know, even amongst people who like RPG games, there's probably a segment, especially those that like JRPGs, that might get turned off by this game because it does hew more closely to a Western RPG than the more Eastern.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit more depth in the combat as well. And your units, you actually have break attacks, which is every time you successfully hit a unit or an enemy with an attack, that character gains chain points. And then you can spend those chain points to launch special attacks that don't cost you any mana. They're more. I kind of think about if you ever played World of Warcraft, how the rogue worked. You stack up the combo points and use your finishers. It's kind of a similar idea to that. And I also ended up adding in special abilities where you could only use them once per break. So it's like using a break attack, this finisher would unlock the ability to use another move, which they tend to be the most powerful moves in the game. So there's a little bit of a balance going on because you don't always necessarily want to go all the way to the max 5 chain points to launch the attacks. So hopefully there's a little bit more depth to it. I certainly was trying to. I mean, the game is very much an exploration game, but I wanted to also have very interesting boss encounters. Maybe I played too much World of Warcraft, but that's one thing I always loved about that game is some of the boss encounters you'd have to figure out. And I tried to inject a little bit of that into this game.
Yeah, and a lot of those things Dylan echoed in his review, and to me when I was asking him about the game, as far as he liked the combat. He was like, it really kind of gets you in and out of the combat a lot quicker, and left him to what he enjoyed more, or enjoyed a part of. I don't know. He said more was the exploration. So it's like he can go into the exploration, and on some of these, like especially some of the JRPGs, it's like. The ones I did play, it's like, I really don't want to explore anything, because if you make me walk across this area too much, I'm just going to bump into a bunch of stupid random encounters, and they're going to take 5 to 10 minutes a pop, even though they're not even a challenge.
That's exactly what I wanted to avoid. The encounters are actually, majority of them are fixed. So once you clear out a room, it's cleared out. That said, there is some random encounters in the game. It is mostly for kind of a pacing and kind of keep the player on their toes, but they're very, very infrequent compared to most games of this type. So you can really go around and explore the environment more without worrying about, 2 more steps and I'm going to have to fight again.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I'm trying to think if I got anything else. Anything you want to mention?
I guess one more thing while we're talking about Dark Delve, and thank you, is that another thing I wanted to avoid was a trend, especially in older Japanese RPGs, which is you save up all your mana for the boss fight. And so you have all these really awesome abilities, and you only ever see them in one encounter out of 100. And so the way the game works is you're actually graded on each combat. You're given a grade on. And based on the grade, you get your resources back, such as your mana and your health. So you're encouraged to kind of, push and use all your abilities in every fight.
Final Fantasy Tactics. It sounds like.
Oh, yeah. I loved Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, so you don't want the player not using these abilities, essentially.
Exactly.
Don't just save these for the one times. Like, you're supposed to use these. But yeah, I confess that I'm kind of that gamer. I'm the min-max gamer. It's like I did play a rogue when I played World of Warcraft, simply because that's a stat character that really appeals to a min-max personality. Because it's all about crits and maximizing the potential of crits. And, whereas my brother played a paladin, and his characters just tend to be, like, I'm just going to wear him down. Like, he would play, what did he play? He played Dark Age Camelot.
Okay. I never got into that one.
So in that game, the paladins had chants, which are basically the paladin spells. But the chants either, like, healed everybody a heartbeat amount, or they increased stamina, or they added defense or something. I forget what they were. And he could do what was called twisting. And so essentially, like, you could cast these on a set rhythm. Like, if you cast one, it's going to last for 6 seconds. And he could twist them so that every 6 seconds he could switch a chant. And then that would basically always keep him healed, no matter what he was fighting. And then he could just sit there for like 7 minutes and drop any creature, no matter what the difficulty difference was, because he could just sit there and just bang on it. Whereas I would just go out and either I would take it down in a second, or I would be dead in a second. But something was going down. We played a ton of Dark Age of Camelot. That actually was my favorite MMORPG. The guild kind of moved off to World of Warcraft, and we kind of went into World of Warcraft for a little bit, but it didn't have the player versus player aspect. And the number one thing that I did in World of Warcraft, I played on a PvP server, and I ganked level 20s.
You're that guy.
I was that guy. Oh, I was so that guy. I would find somebody out there doing a quest, and like my rogue, I got him up to level 47 or something. And it wasn't because I, was having problems getting groups. It's just because I didn't do anything other than go out and ganking. And it's like, once I hit level 47, it's like, yeah, I don't really need 50 or 60 later. I'm fine where I'm at. And on your, body, like, so when you die, your body's there. I would set a campfire so that you knew I was in the area. I was camping you all night. This is what was happening.
Literally camping you.
Yes, I am camping you. I'm acknowledging that I'm camping you. This is what we're going to do all night long. And the best nights, of course, were where they got on and like either they had an alt or they had a large guild, and they called the guild down. And now I'm running through the forest trying to hide from like 20 level 60s who are just out to kick my ass. And most of the time they would, but every now and then somebody would stray from the pack, and I would drop them, and then get to go back off, and laughing and cackling. I think they took it out, but at one point you could shout, and the other side could hear you.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah,
And it was garbly-gook, but they didn't convert the pipes and whacks and slashes and ampersands and everything. So, like, you could do this bastardized version of Leet Speak, and it would make it through the filters. And so I had all these taunts hotkeyed. Also because they didn't convert Unicode characters, so if you typed in characters above the 256 character set, those didn't get converted. So you just find the O with the little thingy at the bottom. The what do they call that? The Silly, the
I forget.
Cecilia or something. Something that starts with a C. The little cinder that hangs at the bottom of the O that's in like Spanish languages. You could just use that for your O and get the messages out. But that's what I did. And I'm proud of it. And I went to Shadowbane even, because I was looking for hardcore PvP. But unfortunately that game sucked because they couldn't write networking code. So like so many MMORPGs, it just failed to launch, because of inability to, handle that many people on one server, at one time. So I sidetracked a little bit here. I do got some news queued up. The first one I got queued up, I'm getting a lot of feedback now.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah, I don't know if that's coming out in the recording or why that is coming out. Trying to watch my meters.
Echo.
Yeah, I don't know what's causing it. I don't know what, where I'm getting that from. I hear it, but, it's just little bitty clips. Oh, I hate to mess with audio settings.
Don't do it.
Resist. While we're doing this.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Muted my mic any better. Are you hearing it? No, we're not hearing it now. But you can join us back. You can come back.
I'll just make sure it's muted when I'm not talking.
Oh, okay. So the first news item do you have the live web stream running?
I do, but it's on your site, so it's actually not come up. It just has the Game Marks logo on it.
Okay, as long as it's not playing. Yeah.
It's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone now, actually. So maybe it just needed a click and a reset, and it's Skype. I'm going to blame Skype. The first news article I got up is, it was in Ars, and it was talking about Indievania, and it said the game portal lets you buy direct games from the creators and takes no cut. And the whole article is how Indievania is not taking a percentage. You just basically sell your games, and they're going to take donations. And I thought this was cool. I got into the IRC chat, and I kind of shared the article around, and it was like, hey, no, that's not true. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not true? It's what the article says. They're not taking a cut. Now, what they say is they make the gamer buy the game using the PayPal account of the developer. And on the About page of there, they also again say, keep 100%. Of course, minus the PayPal fee. But it sounds like they're taking a fee. It says, I'm not going to out anyone. I don't know if they want to be known or not. Although he said he made a comment on the R story. So maybe he's in there. I don't see that out there. So I'm not going to name names yet. But yeah, he went and pulled up his receipts and everything, and what he sold his game for, it's like they totally took a cut out of it. And it was weird because they took their cut after PayPal's cut, And when you add them all together, Indievania was actually more than the stock 30% that the
Really?
regular app service would take.
Mm.
So I don't know. That kind of sucks. I told him to. I had to run, but I sent him, like the guy that wrote it, Andrew Weber. I sent him Andrew Weber's email address. I'm like, send that to Andrew Weber, man. Have ours follow up or redact or explain that, because if they're running on that and they're telling the gamers like 100% of the money goes to the developer that you're buying, and then they ask for a donation to keep Indievania running. But if they turn around and take a cut or a fee, I don't care what they call it, if they take some money out of that, you know, that's fraud. That's
false advertisement.
Yeah, definitely.
on that. So yeah, I just want to kind of bring that up and mention that to any indie developers that listen to this and all that, checking that out. Like, I couldn't find anything in the fine print except a small clause that said they could charge a fee in the future if they wanted to.
I suppose it's the future.
Yeah, and I guess like, well, I guess the future's already come and happened.
The future is now.
We're in the future. And all that. But their about page talks about 100%, and it's like, dude, I work right across from the BI department. I can tell you that is not 100%. Also, while I was on ours today, they had an article about game spoilers in the headline. So I guess I didn't go to the Kotaku article. I don't know what the headline was. I didn't click it to find out. But apparently Kotaku put in the headline a major plot spoiler of Batman Arkham City. So, like, it's like, if you review Final Fantasy VII, like my review of Final Fantasy VII is, oh my god, Arceus dies. You know, it's like, that would suck. I didn't even put spoilers or any warning around it. And Kotaku got a lot of negative feedback on it. They started defending it, like, we're game journalists and this is our job and we're just doing our job or something like that. And what's funny is watching ours just call them out as not journalists, as like the low of the low, the scum sites. They're just blog, you know, which really comes off bad reading the article on ours, because it's like, oh man, you guys are just digging on another site. Like, we're higher class, when ours, somebody in the comment linked to the ours article that spoilers spoil nothing. And they basically run with the theory, like, even if you read the spoiler, it doesn't take anything away from when you experience that moment.
Yes, it does.
You know, it's like, their headline on there was like, Dumbledore dies, page 459 or whatever. And it's like, that still doesn't take away from anything, because that's just the event. That's not do that. I don't agree with that at all. I think that does. I know as a game developer, I'd be highly pissed.
I know as a game player, I would have been highly pissed if I knew Aerith died before, because I outfitted that bitch out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would be very disappointed.
So, yeah, Steggs is claiming that Bruce Wayne is Batman. I don't know on that. Although Steggs claims to be Batman a lot, too. Oh, you know what's funny? Steggs just pointed out BioShock is a great game. I totally spoiled that on another podcast. I'm not going to do that again, but it was on the Chainsaw Buffet podcast, which is, Dylan it's a podcast that Dylan still is involved with, and I used to be involved with. And that's why they're out at AWA, and they're going to have some good interviews at AWA with the people who put on the Middle Tennessee Anime Convention. You can't interview the people who put on the convention at the convention. They're busy. But you can go to the next convention and then round them up. And they do a lot of good interviews. In fact, next week on the podcast, John Robbins, who is the host of Chainsaw Buffet, is going to be hosting Game Marks. Cicely and I will be out for my cousin's wedding.
Yay, they finally getting married.
Yeah, they're a couple that's been together since like high school.
And they should be married by now, but they decided to wait till she graduated.
So we're gonna be up there doing all that, and I'm gonna have to DJ a whole bunch of country music and Christian rock. I'm not looking forward to that at all. That's what our playlist is. That should not be a surprise. You know them. They go to the youth group every weekend still.
I blanked it out. I blanked it out.
Yeah, that's going to be this kind of, there may or may not be booze at the reception. Just be
God
prepared.
damn it, if there's not booze, there should be at least wine. Water into wine.
Yeah, be prepared for that. So anyway, Dylan and John are going to come in and run the show. We got them all set up, to do all of that. And anyway, on Chainsaw Buffet, we were talking about something, and I can't remember why we brought up BioShock. We were discussing BioShock, and I just spoiled the ending of that game because, you know, this is years after the BioShock has come out, and I figured everybody, you know, at that point had played it that was going to play it and all that. And Nathan on the podcast, Nathan Blevins, who's been on the show before, he's on the podcast, and he's like, fuck, thank you, Mike. I hadn't played that yet. I have it, and I hadn't played it, and thank you. Thank you.
Well, you know, there is a certain amount of time where it's reasonable not to get spoilers, but after that, it's fair game.
That's kind of my argument.
He was on the edge of the 5-year statute of limitation, nowhere near the 10-year statute of limitation.
Yeah, but Steggs himself is considered. He's claimed to be Batman before. He's claimed that he is Batman. To which I ask him, you know, has his parents died? You know, that's probably what that means. So Jim hasn't finished BioShock yet.
And
So
we're not re-spoiling.
We're not spoiling that. I never played the sequels though, and it was kind of disappointing, and it wasn't that big of a shock. It was kind of like, yeah, you guys went with the obvious choice. Yay. Other news articles. Great post-mortem by Smudge Cat Games on the adventures of Shuggy. Anybody that's been around XNA, around Xbox Live Indie Games for any time, ever, Shuggy was in one of the first, like, 2007 Dream Build Play competitions, and it placed quite well and made it in the top 20, and then instead of releasing the Xbox Live Indie Games, it actually managed to get him in touch with publishers that were like, hey, and I think he said first it was Sierra. It was like, hey, we want to publish your game. We want to publish it as XBLA. And, you know, of course, like, that's stoked. This is awesome. This is great. Only then Sierra gets bought by EA, and EA decides
Thank
to...
you, no.
No, we're not. So, you know, it was like a couple years lost, and, yeah, Jim has it nailed. Shuggy is the Duke Nukem Forever of XBLA. And then it goes around to a couple other, you know, game publishers, and it's a really great post-mortem because it's more on like this business aspect of just getting lost in the system, and as an indie game developer, just because you get the contract doesn't mean you're getting published. And then sadly, it did publish as an XBLA title, to no marketing, no banner ads, no dashboard promotions,
Barely any.
and he didn't even get his review tokens until after the game was out.
Major Nelson did mention it more than once, but that was it.
Yeah, that's...
And that's only because I follow him on the little thing.
The little
Twitter.
thing being Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, the Twitters.
The Twitters.
Yeah, so that's like, that's shit. It's like, hey, I as an indie game developer, I can get myself on the Twitters. Thank you very much, you know? But it's an interesting post-mortem. And unfortunately it ends on a sad note, spoiler alert, that, you know, this may be it. Like, you know, they kind of have to pay the bills, and the game thing was fun to try, but this 5-year journey, with not a good ending may have, maybe like, hey, you know, just not gonna make games be the thing.
Spoiler, this thing does not end well.
Yeah.
It sucks to see someone's passion get drained out of them like that.
Yeah, and it's, you know, this is my anger point with Xbox Live Indie Games. It is that this whole system that he got lost in, this publisher game and the racket, And you know, like if you play by our rules, we'll let you on the system. And then even if you do play by our rules, we may not publish you, and you can get screwed totally by things not your fault, you know? And the App Store model, which is kind of what Xbox Live Indie Games represent, on Apple, like, there's no power in the publishers. In fact, EA is having to buy the Angry Birds Rovio studio because they can't figure out how to make a good game on the iPhone. They're having their asses handed to them by the innovation of, you know, the masses, essentially. Like, just let everybody in. And there's going to be a lot of junk, but there's going to be a lot of creative, cool ideas. And because the barrier to entry is low, because the investment to deploy is low, you can try out your crazy ideas. You can also leave EA and the sweatshop as a game developer and take your years of solid game experience and strike out and make it on your own.
You can make the tiny, Tiny Co version of a pirate game that outshines anything Capcom puts out on the shit. And I hate them and their stupid Apple mobile games. Fuckity fuck crash.
So, I mean, it's the great equalizer. It's like you don't have to rely on ads placed on the Xbox dashboard or in magazines. You don't have to rely on shelf space at Walmart. You don't have to rely on all these other things that the publishers do. It kind of takes it away, and it's kind of equal. And given the right review system for the consumers, so they can go in, they can leave comments, they can rate, they can sort and filter, and the right things percolate, you know, and bring the good stuff up and push the bad things down. It becomes a great equalizer, and it's like, yeah, anybody can jump in and do this, from the big to the small. And you know, indie games are never going to replace your Call of Duties, your Gear of War 3, you know, your GTA 4s. Like, the scale of the budget and production of those, that is not something an indie studio is going to attain to. But I do hate this second redheaded stepchild thing that they do to indie games to, like, even push them down further. You know, to, like, okay, you can't play in the achievement leaderboard, you know, you can't play our reindeer games. You know, you have to go stand in the freak corner. And you can't be talked about, and we'll look at it when the system stops updating after 3 days or so. We won't give a shit. And it's like what they launched on with the whole democratizing game distribution rhetoric. Like, they completely failed to deliver on that. And that's really what pisses me off more than anything else, is that you guys had an opportunity to, I hate the pun, change the game. You know, like, you had the opportunity to make the next gen of consoles be like where homebrew is the common thing. You know,
they had a chance to take what PS2 had and make it their own.
Well, I mean, PS2 didn't have any open. PS2 wasn't open at all.
It wasn't open, but it was readily accessible with to many, many more people than previous consoles were.
Well, no, that's not accessible to developers, though. That's accessible to gamers. I'm talking about for developers, for anybody to look at that. I'm talking about what we were talking about earlier in the show, where the console, you know, the NES, that thing was a black box of magic. There's no way I could ever get code on that thing. You know, that is so far removed.
Could have sold it in
PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3s, these require tens of thousands of dollars to buy a dev kit to get in a license, and then you have to be approved to write a game for the platform.
Not in
you know,
Japan.
Not that it means anything anymore, but you need a Nintendo seal of approval to make a game for the Wii. You know, like, they are, you know, deciding who goes and who doesn't. And it's like, it's the internet, as the internet comes to each media. The internet, it takes each entertainment platform and fucks it over. First, we fucked over books. They're long screwed now. It's negrophilia, what's going on with the books.
I love them.
You know, after they got done with that, in books, they came for music. Music's just about done and over. Music about
resigned. Took away my
resigned.
Napster. I will never buy Metallica again.
But they're at the point now where music is just a subscription service, or a free service. You go get Pandora or Spotify free, and you play all the music you want. They've dominated that and taken over that. And if you want to just put your album up there for free and sell T-shirts, you make a great living. Mm-hmm. You know, you just find, you know, other ways without having to go through publishers for that. The film industry is just about past the tipping point. That's why they're fighting Netflix so freaking hard, because Netflix represents the new age. They don't want that because that kills off the, you know, Netflix takes down the movies, they take down cable, they take down all the old guard. So they're trying to. There's been so much content pulled from Hulu too. It hasn't gotten as much news, but Hulu Plus now is completely not worth it because of all the content that's getting pulled out of Hulu.
I want cable for football only.
Well, and you know they don't want to sell it that way. They want to sell $100 cable subscriptions.
Fuck you! I want my football.
So
you can't expect them to go down without a fight.
No, you can't. Games are going to be the next frontier. It's just a factor of size. If you line everything up I just said, books to MP3s, or books to music, to movies, and now to games, it's just a factor of size. And as bandwidth and hard drive space increase, then it's trivial. I mean, you can download a 4 gig game on the Xbox now. I think as little as 3 years ago, I wouldn't have fathomed that. You know, like, forget that. I don't have 5 days to download this. You know? I don't have the room on my Xbox to store that.
PS3.
You know, so... But unfortunately, they're not going that route. They're actually going away from that route, and Sony and Nintendo have shown no interest in picking up the slack, which I think Sony so should. Unfortunately, they're a company that doesn't get it. But it's like, you're now the guy behind. You need to play catch-up. And the way you do that is to create something awesome and innovative. Put the frickin' Steam client on the PS3, and you're back in the lead. You know? I'm not saying it has to be completely uncurated. They can curate some, but it has to be a lower barrier. I think Steam is a good example, because there's a barrier to entry on Steam, but it's not crazy. You know, it's not like you have to go get a publisher, and then the publisher has to talk to you and you schedule dates. It's more like, let me see your game, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a decent game. That's all right. Aside from Radiant Games and Luke, I don't know any great developers that were turned down that I thought had good games that should be on there. They got turned down. And unfortunately, I think Luke got turned down just because dual stick shooters and all that is kind of played out, and they just didn't feel like that was good for the market to throw another one on there.
It's bad retro now.
Yeah. So that's sad. I think, you know, all 6 Radiant games as a bundle on Steam for like $4.99. That's awesome. I'd be there in a heartbeat. I'd buy it again. I'd buy it again on Steam. You know, just because it's like awesome. Like Steam sits down, you sit into Steam, and it's really like this. It's really like Hello Batman. It's log in, and it's like, oh, hello, Mike. These are all the games you own. You want to install any of these and play them now? You know? No? Later? All right, cool. I'm just going to keep these for you. And the next computer you go to, I'll ask you again if you want to take these around. So, the last story I have up is kind of related to ongoing ratings abuse in Xbox Live Indie Games. The Xbox Live Indie Games, unfortunately, are still suffering ratings manipulation. It's pretty clear in the stats. Any game developer that thinks they've been hit by it, while the sites are down, if you want the stats, I'm running them on my local machine so I don't miss any windows, and I have them. Just send an email over to contact@gameworks.com and say, hey, I think I was hit. This is my game name, and I'll just send you back an Excel document and say, all right, here's your stats so you can look into what happened. But, you know, the couple examples that have happened, I've looked at the stats and like, yeah, the ratings that came in, the velocity they came in, and how many places you dropped, so unfortunately you were targeted. It's unfortunately, it's still going on. But the news item that I actually have up is that Metacritic was suffering the same issue, where groups of users were going in and targeting games like Bastion and Toy Soldiers and others, and they were targeting them and manipulating the ratings on Metacritic. Well, Metacritic actually responded, and they found and banned the users guilty, and went in. So that really is pretty awesome.
Definitely.
I wish we would see that. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's against terms of service. But, yeah. And then, Stick points out that's kind of their business. I think it's in Microsoft's best interest, because without a healthy rating system, it makes Xbox Live indie games look like crap, because the good ones got slammed down, and you don't have this awesome... We have well over 2,000 games now, and you should be able just to hit this dashboard of top rated and be able to blow $50, $60 on indie games and just have an awesome time. You know, because there are that many great games for any type of gamer on the system now, but they're just hard to find, you know? And that's the rating system. And I think I've ranted enough. I think we need to get to new releases on that. So if you've played any of these, Mark, you're welcome to comment. If you don't want to comment, you want to take the high road and be a developer and not anger people who might peer review your next game, that is fine right too. That is all right.
I've been mostly playing Cursed Loot. That's the game that we recently purchased, me and my son. Really into that one.
I know that one, yes.
So now it's time for new releases of the week. The new releases run from September 23rd to September 29th. This week is kind of special. So Dylan is out, so obviously he's not here to play them. Because of ongoing things with the site move that I had and getting Dylan set up to do the podcast next week, I didn't get to play any of the games this week. So only Cicely played the games, so this is pretty much up to her for all opinions, and she is Empress and Goddess this week of your standing in the games. I will make my comments based solely upon your game name and box art. That is how I will review your game this week. Our first one up doesn't look that bad. The Fall of Gods. Looks like pretty good from the box art. We'll do with a sword. Little Asian-looking Link happening.
Yeah, it's definitely a Zelda-esque sort of game, too.
I liked it. Just to point out now, it's a JRPG where the main constituent is 16 and basically has the mindset of a Michael Neal, only he's just gonna run with it. He makes comments in there, it's like, why is it always gotta be a young guy who can't even drink who's gotta save the world?
So that's some good humor in the dialogue and such. Okay, our next one up is Don't Feed the Trolls.
It's a...
it doesn't look bad from the box art.
It's a color match. You don't feed the trolls, you feed the bears. You feed 3 trolls, you lose. You don't feed 10 bears, you lose.
With a match 3?
No.
It's kind of like a whack-a-mole, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're smacking them, I guess, as they pop up, and it looks like the trolls are green and the bears are red.
Bears are brown.
Bears are brown?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was misled by the box art then. Oh, no. Okay, so that's a troll wearing a bear mask. Got it.
Sneaky trolls.
Yeah. Motherfuckers. All right. Next one up is Sidereal Defense, and I would pass on this one from the box art. This is confusing me just from the box art.
God damn it.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to get onto Xbox, but I apparently don't remember my damn password.
Why do you need to get on Xbox? Just what did you think of Sidereal Defense? The image is right up here on the screen.
Oh, it's basically there's certain lines that you can place either attack or resource collecting drones on, or shield drones or whatnot. It's like what's it called?
Tower defense.
set in lines. It's not very good.
All right.
Looks pretty nice, not very good.
Next one up, whacking, waving, inflatable.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing avatars. Wacky
From
waving...
the box art and the name, I'm gonna say fuck this game.
It's Simon. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing avatars.
Yeah, I can see the Simon
He's-
Logan on there. Yeah, I was just saying fuck it for the rip-off on the Family Guy meme.
Yeah, he keeps saying that in the title screen. Just
Does it do the zoom in, zoom out effect?
yes, for a portion.
Okay, well, at least he does it properly.
But it stops and then it doesn't start again. So
Sadly, that'll probably pop up in the top best-selling next week. You know, it was in the top best-selling on Major Nelson's post, like top-selling games of the week.
I'm not certain I want to know.
Fishcraft.
Fuck you.
Yeah, and by fuck you, fuck the consumers buying that shit.
It's like I liked when it was Angry Fish. Fishcraft, no.
Fishcraft is a clone, and it's already been made.
It's a clone of a ripoff.
Yes. All right. Next up is Devil Blood. The box art, it looks interesting, but it kind of gives me this weird, low-quality graphic feel, so I'm mixed on this one.
I don't have that one written down as one that I liked.
Journey to the Dark Citadel of Nevermore in a quest to kill demons.
Oh, I remember this one. This one was like a Doom ripoff where you just got some sort of odd Halo-ish gun, and then it's all red everywhere, and there's things that fly out, and you have bullets, and if you run out of bullets, you're dead, and there's stuff you pick up, and stuff that there's no recoil on the gun. It doesn't rumble. It doesn't feel like you're hitting anything. No life bars pop up whatsoever. And it's awful. Absolutely awful. We should be past this.
Thought you said you liked it.
No.
Ranger Wars. It's okay on the box art, except it makes me think it's gonna be like an angle launch game. Where do you remember like the toss the bananas with the gorillas? That's what it makes me think of.
I didn't like it. It's kind of like you have some Mega Man characters, you pick up some power-ups, and they do some things, not that I really know what they do. I could only play in practice mode because it's intended for 2 to 4 players. And you kind of stomp on your other characters. It's a fighting game with bad Mega Man-ish graphics.
Our next game up, High Gravity Wells, and the box art has High Gravity Wells written on a spiral with a blue Xbox X button in the middle, and that's gonna make me say fuck this game. What's the verdict on it?
It was actually in my list of games that I kind of liked. I'm sorry, but I liked it, but it's a space puzzle game. It's a puzzle game based in space.
What does that mean?
You have a little rocket ship. You're supposed to be going to a point. You use the gravity wells to move the spaceship because apparently you have no thrusters or some crap like that. It's a puzzle game.
So, are you moving the gravity wells around?
No, you're activating the gravity wells. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot.
Okay, so this is almost like a cut the rope type game. Instead of hanging down from the rope and you're trying to get it to swing by the ropes, you're trying to go by the gravity wells.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't use certain gravity buttons because the gravity buttons are mapped to the different buttons, but and you just kind of figure out how to get your spaceship there.
Now, our next game up is Wizorb. Now, from the intricate box art, I'm intrigued, but I fear I'm going to be let down because these aren't the graphics actually in the game.
I was intrigued. I was let down, not because those weren't the graphics in the game.
Are those the graphics in the game?
Pretty much. Only
Okay.
You just
I've
make
been
them...
burned before where the box art graphics look nothing like the graphics in the game.
Put down Wizorb. I put out okay. Because I was expecting an RPG. It's Breakout RGP 64.
It's a breakout game.
It's a breakout game.
Did not see that one.
But it's like the Nintendo 64's graphics, doing a old school Mega Man type lookout.
What was that other Breakout game that we played? The steampunk one.
I don't remember.
So, I mean, but you remember the game I'm talking about, right? How was it in relation to that? Iron Ball.
Better.
Better than Iron Ball, you thought?
I think from what it's deeper anyway.
Okay.
This one you have spells where you can use them on the ball. It looked like where you could like guide the ball or have it explode or reverse its direction.
You can make a gentle wind and push it slightly over to the side, or you can make a fireball.
All right. Well, that sounds pretty interesting then. Next one, the box art looks okay, but the title alone is fuck this game. Math Fighter.
Fuck this game.
What do you do in Math Fighter?
What does it sound like you do in Math Fighter?
We had an awful math game, I think,
this
last week.
This is better than that one.
Is it better than that one? Okay.
Like, far and above that one. If we're going on math games, this one is probably the best of the math games so far.
Is this like the math game that you had to play at school when they like, hey, you got computers, so you have to play the math and spelling games?
Yes. Only Number Crunchers was fun as hell, and this one isn't. Number Crunchers is not on the shit pile.
Our next one up is
Australia.
Australia, a real-time strategy shooter experiment. The box art looks wonderful. The name is intriguing. Real-time strategy shooter sounds good. Throwing that word experiment makes me go,
Experiment, I think, has more to do with the story in there. And there is a story. It was on my list of I liked it. It's not quite a twin-stick shooter. I don't quite get what's going on in portions of it. There's monsters that you're trying to defeat. You're one of the last of a deleting branch of old AI systems from the old way. They found materia, and materia is an intelligent synthetic AI source, and so that just cuts the cost of production down like reams. And apparently the old system of AIs tried to form a revolt and got beat down.
All right, a lot going on in this game for 80 points. You gotta go
read the intro if nothing else. Go download it and read the intro.
Next one up, Zombie Craft Sampler. So this has the Skyfish thing on the front, and so I'm immediately like, I have no fucking interest in this whatsoever. How was this in reality?
Okay, take Skyfish and take Terraria, smash them together, and then put shit on it.
Okay. All right. So, it has on the cover on the little blocks bras and or bikinis or something and boobs. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know that I want to. It's another game of the Skyfish never-ending saga, I guess. Next one up is Robot Riot. Looks interesting from the box art.
It's also on my list of I liked it. This one, the best comparison I can make is Mega Man. Like Nintendo NES Mega Man.
Is that for the platforming, or does it have like multiple stages, select like why Mega Man? Why are you?
Yes.
So it does have multiple stage selects? It is a Mega Man style platformer. It has timed jumps and sequences and things like that?
Timed jumps and sequences. You find stuff, you get key cards, you avoid traps, you kill enemies.
You get power-ups from the enemy bosses?
I don't know. I never got to a boss, but probably. But it's not the whole, you have 8 people to kill, or 9 people, or what have you. 8 people in Wily. It's you are a special agent enforced with who's working with a police ship to bring in people who are running from the law. And so you basically have to cripple their ships by taking out their engines and the puzzles are getting to the engines, and then you just shoot the engines to take the engines out, and then a police ship comes and it carts their asses off to jail.
So, Robot Riot then sounds like something worth checking out then, and it also has chiptunes. Yay!
And they sound good.
Our next game up is Fastball 2. I don't remember the first Fastball, but I have no interest in this Fastball 2.
I don't remember, and it's not on my list. I don't think I liked it. I don't think I liked it at all. That one I hated.
Falling Blocks.
I hated it.
It doesn't have great box art. What was this?
Basically, you're supposed to see how high you can get before the time runs out. The boxes don't start immediately. While you get there, you wait for a few seconds, you're just like, my time is running out, I'm not seeing anything. I fell off the thing initial platform a couple times just to see if I was actually doing something. You can't see when you're making something special. There's like some special moves you can do, and I saw the counter go down when I pressed the button, but I didn't see anything else going on. Oh, Fastball 1 for the iPhone. Okay. And, it just was suck. You can, like, press a button to look up, but you don't look up much more than pressing up on the right stick would do. And it's hard to tell where you are because there's no relative thing in 3D. It's just a ball of suck. That's what it was, a ball of suck.
Well, that wraps up the new releases for the week. I'm judging totally off of box art. I think box art game of the week is, looking back over them here, Austria, what, Australia, I don't know, whatever that is. That'd be my box art game of the week, but, I didn't play any of them, so this is really you. This is no pressure now, but what is the game of the week?
I'm trying to choose between JRPG and Mega Man.
What's the JRPG?
The Fall of the Gods.
Fall of the Gods, and then the Robot Riot.
Yes. I think I could finish Robot Riot, but I think the Fall of Gods is probably gonna be the one that I want to play.
Yeah, show your biases. Go ahead.
Look,
you don't play platformers, so...
I put a Breakout, a twin-stick shooter, and a puzzle game also in my list.
Yeah, but that's like kissing your cousin. They're all second place or lower. So, Fall of the Gods, then? Final answer?
Final answer.
Final answer. All right, congratulations, Fall of the Gods. GameMark's Game of the Week, so saith Sicily.
So say we all.
You are not popular in chat.
Pigs not fly it. Can't fly. It's not this week, son.
No, and they won Game of the Week last week. Was Pigs Can't Fly. So, all right, that pretty much wraps everything up. Any final words, comments, thoughts, Mark?
No, I'm good. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Glad you come on the show. Glad for you letting us to be your launch party. I hope Dark Delve does pretty well. Dylan says it's a pretty decent game, and it looks like it's going to appeal to the people who are interested in the demographic you were going for.
Thank you.
All right. So, like I said, me and Cicely are not going to be here. Dylan is going to attempt to run everything next week. I've handed him all the knowledge.
Ooh.
He has made a text file on his desktop that has all the knowledge. Be nice to him, you know. Hopefully he'll manage to get everything up and going for next week.
In a smooth fashion.
Yeah, in a smooth fashion. That includes everything. I mean, the live show, they're going to record all the videos for the week. They're going to do it all. I'm going to take a week off. It's the first week ever, so we'll see if there's anything left to come back to. In other news, as far as the status of moving the site, I'm on it. Quit fucking asking. Thank you very much. That's my status update for the site. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the show.